and they have been uncovered in the grounds of West Africa in the jungle. And they are not, unlike other relics that you would have seen on television and heard about, they're not found in temples, they're not found in grave sites. They're randomly buried in the bush, anywhere from the near surface down to 140, 150 feet
Wow.
deep. And there's no one who knows who buried them. There's no guaranteed uh, evidence. There are theories and time frames even. So there are some that have been identified time-wise. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, yeah.
But so again, they're found randomly. They're dug up. And so what is a Nomoli stone? What does it represent? Well, they are named after the gods, the Nomoli gods. And the tribal belief is that long ago, there were a race or civilization of angels who lived in the sky, and gods, if you will, and they misbehaved. And as punishment for their misbehavior, the supreme god forced them to turn their entire part of the sky, of the heaven, into stone, and rained it down upon the earth and forced them to come and live upon the earth, wherein they lived amongst the tribes, and they blessed them with the attributes and the blessings which they could instill upon them. They were said to be very large. There is an image of Nomoli riding on an elephant, and he's larger, much larger than the elephant. They're said that their eyes were so bright that if you looked them in the eye, it was like looking at the sun. And their voices projected such and were so loud that when they spoke in one village, they could be heard in another village. So the Nomoli gods are said to, if you ask the tribal leaders, or shamans, or medicine women and men, the chiefs, they would tell you that no human has carved the authentic Nomoli stones, that they were handed down from the gods to the tribes, to the individuals and to the tribal leaders, and they were infused with the powers and the blessings, and they were handed down to be utilized in ceremonies, traditional practices.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So is there any other type of ability, like talking about the spiritual thing? I mean, I've heard you mention that some people have been able to feel things from them, maybe, or like are they somewhat, I don't want to get too deep down the rabbit hole right now, but you know, magical in any way, talismans or amulets or anything like that?
Well, certainly they have been utilized by the shamans of West Africa, the medicine women and medicine men and the chiefs, and they would state that they do have amazing powers, and magical would not be a word that would be too out of the reach of what they would ascribe to these stones.
Like cell phones? They were cell stones?
Yes. Now, I can say this. In my personal experience, I have seen that those who have acquired stones have had a profound impact upon their lives, whether it's healing, whether it's emotional and other strife that they're going through. They just have had amazing impact. It's not just a stone that they sit on a shelf, but they activate them, they use them in meditations, they use them in healings. As Jeff the Shaman, if you had seen the video on our site with Jeff the Shaman in Florida, using them.
Huh. Have you found how many do you have yourself? You have a few?
Dozens.
Really? And do they say that they're all found, or are they still finding them now?
That would depend on who you ask. But I think it would be, there are experts who would tell you that there no authentic Nomoli have been found in years, but I would question how they could possibly say that.
Is there a way that you can kind of cross-check whether they're authentic or not? Like,
ours were authenticated. Ours were authenticated by Professor Kwaku Afoyanze, who was the art professor at Howard University in Washington for 37 years. He was born in Ghana, and he was the official overseer of the museum, African Art Museum of Maryland. So he did authenticate our stones specifically, and of course ours were also exhibited at the museum over a two-year plus period of time.
Do you
How big is the biggest one? Are they all the same size?
No, they're all different sizes.
No,
How big's the biggest one?
The biggest one I have is 18 inches tall. It's a chief stone.
Heavy.
It's very heavy. That's over 20 pounds. Yeah, that would have been one that would have been used for the enskinment and indoctrination of a chief. You can see it on the video. It was a centerpiece of the museum exhibit. Very amazing stone. It was specifically gifted from a chief deep in the bush long ago, when there was a determination that apparently they knew more than I did back then.
Is that like as big as the biggest one they found, or?
No, I believe there may be bigger ones. That's the largest I've ever seen. And they're looking at the ones that are on exhibit at museums and that have been sold at Sotheby's. None of them are anywhere near as large as the chief stone, which I have. They have been collected, long collected. In fact, in 1855, after Thompson wrote the book, it's mentioned within 4 years he had a collection of at least 10. The British royalty has long collected Nomoli stones. In fact, they have been faked. There are thousands of replicas that flooded the market decades ago that you can find on eBay and other places.
That sucks. So you have some of these ones. Do you feel like I have some questions from some friends of the show? Do you feel like you need to justify selling these artifacts at all?
No.
You're okay with that, even though they need, more investigation and get more people interested and figure out more aspects of the mystery.
Well, yeah, as I visualize it, we can keep them on shelves in museums and sell them to collectors.
Yeah.
But that's not the intention. If they look at our website, they'll see what we're doing is we're making 9 stones available. 8 are going to be sold. 1's going to be utilized in a nonprofit in the inner city. Those stones are going to be acquired by individuals who are exceptional in their modality. We're looking at new and emerging healing techniques and traditional, as well as those in the scientific and theory, ancient alien, ancient civilization theories. And we want to follow on film, including some really exciting new filming technology that's available that pick things up that weren't discernible before. And we're very interested in filming that, and that's the basis of the television series which we're working on now. So I have no problem for a number of reasons. This is the right thing to do with the stones, and certainly now we have also invested a great deal into getting this far, and we certainly need funding to move the project forward.
That's a good point, actually. I feel like more will be done going this route than having them sit in some museum, they'll never really get looked at.
They must be pricey. What do you think they'll go for? We need a Nomoli stone for the studio.
Yeah, the average Nomoli will, if you look at Sotheby's, will start at 6,000.
Oh, Jesus!
So we've got some at 6,000. I mean, the interesting thing, of course, is that if you look at them, you'll see they increase in prices, increase in value. And certainly as these stones are utilized and demonstrate their power, they will increase in value.
Did I see something?
That's a couple of art crystals. What if we just wanted
to lease one?
Or just
we could lease one and put it on the table.
Where could we get a good knockoff? Just to
no.
We want to
a couple $100.
We just want to, present the culture without spending $6,000.
Yeah, well, I'd have no problem if you want to secure it somehow, just to make sure I get it back. I'd be happy to send it out to you. You use it on a couple shows. And
oh, wow.
There you go. That's a good way to do it. We could do some, healing. We could do some meditation around it, and
we'll take some pictures with
healing,
it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you would have something worthwhile. You could have a real good experience. It could be usable on the show. Because again, this is
I'll eat some mushrooms with the little guy.
Well, it's been mentioned that we really should introduce them to somebody on ayahuasca adventure and see. These are the type of things we want to do, whether it's in the bush or in a sound room. We want to see what happens when you utilize them We know that they've been used in healings. We know that Jeff's used them in healings. I have personally seen what happens to people when they touch them. Sometimes readers, I've seen what happens to people when they have a healing. And so I'm confident that we don't have any doubt that there's going to be something very exciting filmed here.
Yeah, that's great.
And also to introduce people that are practicing new modalities and introduce these type of things to people and follow the cases and see what the results are of the impact of a stone upon a healing, or a reading.
Yeah.
Well, if you send one down, I will eat some mushrooms with him. I will sit here at the table. He'll sit there, and I'll eat some psilocybin, and we'll see what happens.
You're on.
I'm down for those sort of experiments. Yeah.
That's in the service of mankind.
Allegedly. We got to say allegedly, just for...
I'll watch it. I'll sit on this
chaperone?
one. I'll chaperone this one.
Graham's back. He stopped chaperoning for a couple of years. He got sick of us.
You may find when you touch a stone, you don't need a mushroom.
There you go. Exactly.
Was it? Goal,
did I see something in your work or on your on one of your videos where some of them have something inside the stone, or some of them have found?
There was one Angelo Petoni found, and before we get off that subject, what we want to do in that regard is pick a stone. You could look through the video, or we can tell you which stones we have handy, and maybe one will call out to you that would be more resonate with your vibrational patterns, as we say.
Okay.
But yes, Angelo Petoni found a stone in the 1990 area, and he had taken it back to his place, and he heard what he thought were vibrational sounds. And so he had it x-rayed and found there was a ball bearing in the stomach. There was no hole in the stone where a bearing could have been inserted. There was no hole in the mouth where it would have dropped down. He had it extracted and tested, and it was a ball bearing with chromium in it, which is interesting because chromium had not been identified until 1761 in modern mankind, and the stone was found in strata that tested to be 17,000 years old.
Wow.
An UPA, or what are they? Out-of-place.
Yeah, out-of-place artifact. Yeah.
It was Klaus Dana who got involved with testing that stone too. If you've ever heard of him, he's a specialist.
Is he the Göbekli Tepe guy?
I think he has been involved with that. But he's been around forever. I mean, this was the 1990s. And I know just the other week or the other month when I was out at the Ancient Aliens, they tried to contact him, and he was on an adventure on the seas, I believe. So he's still actively doing his work. And they had it analyzed in Vienna, Germany, Austria, I believe, a number of laboratories. I evaluated that chromium ball. And the chromium was not isolated until 1790s again, and was identified initially in 1761. So that was an interesting find.
Yeah, that's
interesting. So the Göbekli Tepe guy is Klaus Schmidt, and he passed away 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, no, this is Klaus Dana.
Okay.
I've heard of that too, though, and something I can't remember what.
Those Klauses, they're big archaeology guys.
Yes.
Huh. So how did you get into, where do you want to go from here, Darren? You want to go, how did you find, what made you take it to this level of, getting on the Ancient Aliens and really, or do we want to talk about more of the suppression first?
I want to know what kind, so that little dude that had the ball bearing in him, what kind of stone is that?
That's a Nomoli stone. It's a dragon-looking, I would say, image.
What's the
what do you
mineral?
mean? What kind of material? The stone itself?
Yeah.
So the stones vary in design from a classic Nomoli stone, which that stone would qualify as, from my recollection. And the classic Nomoli stone would be the image of a Nomoli god. It would have the protruding eyes, likely. It would have, now sometimes they have the amphibious infusion, which that one did, a dragon.
Like the one behind you, kind of like that?
Yes, exactly. That is the one that connected us to the Dogon. We were able to connect the Nomoli to the Dogon, based partially on having that stone in our collection. So what I was talking about was...
Yeah, the material. Darren's trying to figure out what kind of material that one was made out of that had the chromium ball bearing in it.
Oh, yes. So that was made out of soapstone.
Oh, okay.
And it was carved on a soapstone in an image of, again, a Nomoli god. That's what I was talking about, the variations. So they begin, if you were to classify them as a pure Nomoli, Nomoli would always have the protruding eyes. Here's two Nomoli. This is a twin stone, 1111, if you will. You'll see the protruding eyes, the pursed lips, the short, squatty legs.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
So that would be a Nomoli god.
What are they doing there? Are they doing the?
Well, that's interesting. When we get stones, sometimes because of my connections were deep in the bush, very unusual connections, they will give us information that would come traditionally down from the tribal leaders, those who would use the stones, the shamans. Then Professor Kwaku Foyanza will often contribute from an academic and a artistic perspective, a deeper artistic interpretation that he would know of. And then we will take them to stone readers, and they will hold them in their hands, and stone whisperers, I refer to them as, and they will tell us things which after they tell us, you often look at the stone and it's kind of obvious, but think of it before. So this particular stone, three different pieces or perspectives. The natives would say they give this to a mother who has twins. They call it a twin stone, to protect the children and the mother during childbirth and after. And then Professor Kwaku Foyanza would say that this artistically represents when the physical being merges with the spiritual being and you reach a higher self. But on the other hand, the Nomoli gods were said to rain down as stone on the earth. So is this an artist depiction, would be the question that the ancient alien theorists would have, of two Nomoli coming down, if you will, in a bullet or a sarcophagus that then opened up, and this is what they arrived as.
They hatched like in cocoon.
Oh, right, because it's like sitting in the bottom of that stone there. Yeah,
you better really get along with that dude if it's a long flight.
So that's interesting, eh? What's interesting is it's almost like the myths of the gods were made after the stones, based on the stones, almost.
You know when I first seen it, you know what I thought? I thought it was like a thing of our self and our. Your like
your mirror
as above so below type thing.
Yeah.
Yourself.
Well, that would be more along the lines of what Professor Kwaku Foyanza would see as the higher artistic inspiration.
Ancient Jungians.
Your ego and your higher self or something like
that.
No, it's not even that. It's like your shadow self. It's like that's where you do the healing and sort of the spirit world or the underworld or the whatever you want to call it. What'd you call it? Sure, we can call it that.
So what?
No, I don't think we can call it.
That was the first stone I ever meditated with, and I don't know why, but it was interesting. I know it was a crisis time.
Well, how old are the myths of the gods? I wonder. I guess.
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really know, but.
I don't know anything. I wasn't there, but the theories. Not that I remember. The theories abound from like 13 to 17,000. But some in modern academia would say there weren't any civilizations there prior to 1,000, which is how old. But there are those who ascribe to, and this brings in the concept of the blue stones, the connection to the Dogon, the genealogical connection between the Dogon and the Egyptians. And not to lose everybody, but these things lend themselves to those who theorize two potential histories. One, that Atlantis was one time off of West Africa, and that there was an influence from Atlantis and the stones and in that region. The other, that long before Egypt had pyramids, there were advanced civilizations in West Africa.
Yeah.
And it's something that's believed by the tribes also.
Yeah.
And that they had pyramids that were long ago absorbed into the jungle, and that they sent people out to Egypt and colonized it as a satellite and built not the first pyramids, but bigger pyramids perhaps than they had built before there.
Where the majority of they geographically now, just not far from Egypt?
West Africa.
West
All
Africa.
on the
I
other
mean,
side.
Egypt's West Africa, right?
No,
Farther down
Egypt
the
is
coast.
northeast Africa.
Egypt is
Oh,
northeast.
that's Northeast Africa. You know what's
Yes.
interesting about West Africa is that current takes you right to North America and to South
The current
America.
takes you right to New Jersey.
Yeah.
I lived in Jersey. We used to get stuff from West Africa.
Oh,
So, that's like, I mean, there's a lot of good argument for that's how black people got into the Caribbean and the southern, what we would call the United States now. And we just don't want to talk about that. We brought them all on boats. Nobody was here. What are you talking about? There's no claim to anything. Yeah, that's interesting. Because I think the interesting thing about North America is I think it, when you look at some of the stuff that's coming out with Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock's work, it's like most of the stuff that's been happening in North America along those lines we don't know nothing about. So I wonder if they'll start finding those sort of artifacts in the Americas. Is there any evidence of that now?
I don't know of any. I know that there are figurines, of course, found around the world. We do have some. I started to mention about the various classifications. You have the ones that are fully Nomoli gods. You have others on the opposite side of the spectrum, which are humanistic and represent often things like we have one with a mother feeding or holding their child. And that would represent values that they wanted the society to pay more attention to, paying attention to their mothers and children, and reverence and protection. So now in the middle, you have stones which are a combination, like the chief stone is a combination of a Nomoli with the crocodiles going up the front and in the back, such as this stone here. And so he would have potentially some humanistic figures.
Look at that, dude.
Yeah,
I like him.
So he has a crocodile infused into his back. The crocodiles were associated with the Nomoli because the Nomoli were said to be, well, the crocodiles were able to live in the water and on ground, so they were amphibious.
Looks somewhat Mayan.
What's that, Mayan? Yeah, well, that ties us into the nomos of the Dogon too. But again, you'll see here that this would have demonstrated that the chief was infused with the powers of the Nomoli. And so you'll have variations. But what I was getting to is we also have a very few, but we have some which have the elongated heads, similar to those you've seen in other countries. See, that's a prime example. So you ask, are there similar? Go ahead.
Is there two of them side by side? Or is that a baby or something?
That's his staff.
Oh.
That demonstrates that he's a chief and he has great authority and power.
Wow.
He totally looks like an alien.
Yeah, he's alien looking, isn't he?
He looks like the Sigourney Weaver chasing alien.
And then this one has almost a helmet on, you can see. And again, the elongated head. So the answer to your question I'm getting to is that there are others around the world that are found which have similar attributes or artistic impressions.
Yeah.
And if you look on our website also, you'll see that Jeff the Shaman, interestingly, I put a stone in his hands a year and a half plus ago, and he's been using it for healing. But he kept thinking it reminded him of something, and he pulled out a stone that he had been gifted from a man who got it at Machu Picchu. And amazingly, the image is very similar to the stone which he acquired from our collection.
Interesting. So how did you find the Dogon connection? Do you want to describe a little bit more about that?
Yeah, my son and I, my son Quinn, he's the brains behind the operation, and we've been doing research for a couple of years, really rediscovering information that had just not been put out there for a long time. And in our studies, we looked into the Dogon, and we found that the Dogon believe that, well, many people are familiar with the Dogon because they are said to have identified Sirius B, the ghost star, long before science was able to find it. And that their contention was that long ago, the nomos, gods, amphibious gods, came down in a whirlwind of fire and thunder, and they delivered them this information that the mankind had originated from the third planet off of Sirius C. So we identified that, and then my son did some further research and found out about the Mali Empire and about the Mende people's history and cultural history. And he identified that the Mali Empire had encompassed the areas where the Nomoli are found, Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Liberia. And that we then did further analysis and came up to the idea that they could have been called the Nomos of Mali. And over time, that became Nomoli. So they're very close to each other, Nomos, Nomoli, they're amphibious gods. And so that was the connection to the Dogon that we were able to identify.
Huh. Interesting. And the Dogon, again, are connected to Egypt through ancient language, right? There's a lot of the similar, like, root language, I think, is the same, isn't it? Or
I'm not as familiar with that as I know they are genealogically have been connected to the Egyptians. So the theory was automatically that they came out of the Egyptians, but there is a cross contention that the Egyptians were descendants of the Dogon.
Any of them found underwater there at all? I'm not sure what there is for.
I was wondering that too, where the sea levels rose after the
sea
ice
was
age.
Probably 400 feet lower there, 17,000 years ago. It'd be interesting. I think West Africa is a pretty sketchy place to go scuba diving and stuff. I don't know. Isn't there a lot of sharks and shit? Maybe.
I don't know of any. I know they've been found on the Sherbro Island. That was one of the first places they were found.
Where's that?
That's off West Africa, just a small island off of Sierra Leone. So they could be in the water, but I don't know of any. The other thing that connects them potentially to Egypt and to the pyramids is the blue stone in the form that they were found, the blue sky stone. So Angelo Pettoni was in charge of excavation for diamond mining. So he's looking for diamonds. I mean, that's his primary goal. He wasn't looking for Nomoli stones, except for the fact that the natives believed that wherever Nomoli had fallen, the stars in that area of heaven, when they turned to stone and came down, they were diamonds. So they believed that the diamonds, again, came down with Nomoli. As it turns out, Nomoli have always been found where diamonds are, historically, so that there is some reason for them to have that belief and to, if they find an anomaly, to begin looking for diamonds. So with this in mind, Angelo Pettoni says to the chief, he says, look, if the sky turned to stone and fell down, then you must know where it fell. And the chief says, oh, yeah, I know where it fell. And he says, well, show me where it fell. And the chief says, well, I can't do that, but the shaman can. So he gets the shaman takes him out, and he finds the blue sky stones.
Wow. And
the blue sky stones are interesting in that they were analyzed also by laboratories, and they were identified as being 77% oxygen. I don't understand what that means. So don't ask me, I'm not a geophysicist. How can a stone be 77% oxygen? I don't know. But the interesting thing is the color itself has yet to be able to be identified. Some form of organic matter, not necessarily from Earth. And they were found on the surface, but also under the surface. There were 200 plus kilograms of the blue sky stones, according to his reports, found, and they were placed into the shape of a pyramid. So we don't know exactly how old or how long ago that was, but very likely it was before the pyramids in Egypt. And that would raise the question of why would they build a pyramid-shaped configuration of blue sky stones under the ground? And there have never been any other stones found anywhere in the world that compare to the blue sky stones.
That's really interesting. I wonder what happened there. Huh. So what are some other ages that have been identified? Or and a friend of ours also has a question about whether luminescence dating would work here.
I don't know anything about luminescence dating.
Okay, yeah, either do I.
I know carbon dating won't work because they're stones. There's no organic material, so you have to find a strata, and that's what Angelo Pettoni did in the case of the stone with the ball bearing in it. But as they are found by natives, diamond miners, diamond mining operations, if you will, and farmers, they are in an area which is there aren't scientists doing digs, and so they're not grabbing the strata around them and testing it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a sketchy part of the world to be hanging out in.
It's most dangerous, very much, and that's why there are very few people who have connections inside the bush.
Do you go there? And you've been there a few times?
Nope.
No.
Now, long ago, I was approached a couple of times by those who wanted to engage me into the intelligence community for the United States, and one of those operatives was from Nigeria, and around the same time another was from Sierra Leone. My friend Bill Diamonds, he would have been the true-to-life character that was portrayed dramatically by Leonardo DiCaprio in Blood Diamonds. And Bill was that guy who long ago, when he found there were diamonds, the best diamonds in the world were in West Africa, went over and dropped in and found a guide and went into no man's land, came out many months later with friends and diamonds, and was in there as an operative for decades and was a foremost intelligence character. So I didn't go to work with him in the country. He tried to recruit me essentially to as an understudy. But I did continue to be friends with him for years. A very interesting character. And while I had no interest in diamonds nor in espionage and skullduggery, I did have an interest in the artifacts that were uncovered and that he had acquired from the chiefs and the medicine men, women, and shamans in his travails.
So is that's how you came across these stones then?
Yes, yes. And I should mention too, as a shout out to Bill, while I did go in looking for the money and he was motivated by diamonds, at the end of his life, it was the people that really held his heart. And he loved the children. When he would go into the villages, would come running and like taking food to them. So.
Yeah. So what made you decide to go from finding these stones to publicizing them a little bit more and trying to get the word out, trying to get people to start researching them?
Well, I collected them and had them for many years, and then I decided to reach out. And in fact, I was going to sell a couple of stones because the work I've engaged in has drained my finances over the years, my investigative reporting, muckraking. And I went out also just to find other people who knew about them, because you always like to share and find other people who maybe would have a collection you could look at compared to it. And that's when I found the anomaly, if you forgive the pun, pardon the pun, that no one knew about them. So what ends up happening is, first you're like, well, how can I be a guy who found something that nobody else knows about? This is silly. I'm nobody. But once you get past that, then you realize you have something really cool. And since no one knows about it, it is automatically kind of a responsibility. You take it on as something that should be out there. It's been purposely suppressed. These are infused with blessings that can help many people, not only the ones in our collection, but others out there that are not being activated, not being used. In a world where these things are happening now, people are using new, emerging modalities, and they're not restrained by the previous limitations on thought.
Yeah.
So these are a great tool that, in my opinion, God has provided. And it's fun. I mean, well, how much more fun? That's why you guys started the show, because you know something that a lot of people will benefit from knowing. And if you don't put it out there, nobody else is going to. So as surprised as I was that nobody else seemed to have any interest or knowledge about Nomoli, even shows like Ancient Alien TV show, I took it as a challenge, and myself and my son took it as a challenge. And as we say, we're doing the best we can. It might not be as good as anybody else would, experts in any field. But if we weren't putting the word out there, nobody else is. And so now that's not true. Guys like you are introducing the Nomoli to people, and they may own one. People listening right now may have a Nomoli and not even know what it is, or run into one at their local market. And then start to activate these stones, and the blessing spreads, and it's good life.
Yeah. What kind of investigative reporting did you do, or do you do as well on the side?
Well, my moniker is Daddy Justice, and I began in the very unpopular position of defending falsely accused men in custody and divorce court primarily, also in criminal court. I also got involved with helping primarily fathers in the prejudiced courts which exist in America and Canada. But then I also have helped mothers primarily when they are accused falsely by the government, which is prevalent here. There's the Profit Center for Government. That led me to, because of my one friend who was an operative long ago in Washington, D.C., used to say, when you run into people that are so powerful and so wealthy that you can't touch them, you have to get them through ridicule and embarrassment in their own circle of influence. So we began to target corrupt judges, corrupt police officers, corrupt police departments, corrupt lawyers, and did short stories, short pieces, videos, hundreds over the last many years. It's been 17 years since I got started on that trail.
Wow.
And have faced 20 or 30 years in prison for charges that have been brought against me. Represent myself pro se. And when we get involved in a case, we help people learn how to fire their lawyer and get something done.
Wow. That's pretty
But
intense.
that's a whole other mission.
Yeah, that's a whole other mission mystery too. Yeah, wow. Well, that's important work, the falsely accused. I mean, that's
we'll link to the videos. I found a whole bunch of Google pages here on Daddy Justice. This is great.
Yes.
Do you guys have a Twitter account? I'd love to follow you.
I don't. It's not really what, to be
don't
honest
make
with
one
you,
now if you don't have one. It's
Yeah. Some of the videos have had hundreds of thousands of views for some reason, but primarily we're just interested in not how many people watch them, but who watches them.
Yeah.
So our videos are very targeted to have an impact on very powerful people's lives by impacting the people that they're directly connected to on a daily basis. And everybody else, if they watch it, that's great too. But we've got to the point where when we show up on a case, people start to act differently.
So that means you've made quite an impact. Yeah.
Generally speaking, when I show up in a courtroom, the judge will make comment.
Yeah.
Say, good day, Mr. Vonderheide. A pleasure to have you in our courtroom.
Wow.
It is.
Good for you. Good for you.
The anti-lawyer I'm referred to.
And do you have, I'm sorry if I missed it, but do you have a law degree or anything like that?
No. Years ago, about 10 or 12 years ago, a judge kept inspiring me to get a law degree. And then there was a local man who offered to pay to send me to law school. The problem with that is once you become a lawyer, you have to follow the judicial canons.
You have to follow
and
the rules.
Part of the judicial canons is you're not allowed to say bad things about judges. So I'm out already.
Yeah.
It's all these rules that I'm not subject to pro se. I'm a citizen standing up for my constitutional rights. And they have tried to prosecute me for practicing law without a license. But everything I do is legal.
Yeah.
You know, they get upset when I help people do things. But there's no law against helping people represent themselves pro se, even to the point of helping them draft up documents, and even to the point of helping them be prepared to go stand before a corrupt judge and make the right statements that really piss them off and make them want to stop abusing them and throw them out. A lot of times the best thing we can do is get the courts to realize they're not going to be able to feed off of this particular prey, and they're best to just let this one go on.
Yeah, fantastic.
But that's a different animal.
That's just your hobby. This is like a real life superhero.
It's been very dangerous. I've had certainly numerous threats in my life. Not too long ago, interestingly, when we uncovered a potential major fraud occurring by the police pension, by the Fraternal Order of Police, someone tampered with my brakes and attempted to send me into a spiral. Some years ago, I was investigating another old cold case homicide, and there were two gentlemen came in with a shotgun and a pistol, and all in black, and made it clear that they didn't want me to investigate that anymore. So it's been, that's why we're moving over to the Stones. Me and my son. Stones. I just turned 60. I've been facing charges for 17 years, seems like, so I don't get tired of that.
Yeah. So is there anything else regarding the Stones that you want to talk about? Anything else? What are you guys planning on doing in the future with them?
Yeah, as I see it, I think the next thing that we're working on now is a TV show, which is interesting. We have a couple of very successful production companies involved, interested. A couple different formats. I'm not sure how much they want me to reveal, except that they're interesting formats. And the one that we have on our website involves telling the story of the history of the Stones and then following them, if you will, beginning with the CGI and the reenactment, the dramatization of the Nomoli gods, giving them to the tribal leaders long ago, then follow the stone to the tribal ceremonies and rituals that they used the stones for. Then the show will depict a reenactment of my friend Bill Diamond's acquiring the stone and what he would have been told about it, and if he'd have seen it used before he acquired it, was gifted it. And then follow the stone to modern day practices and see that particular stone applied and see the results.
Awesome.
Then after that, we're looking to do eventually a full-length feature film, which will be a cross between an Indiana Jones with a healing element and a spiritual journey.
Very cool.
The hero's journey. Let me know if you need someone to carry your stuff. I could probably do a little acting. I'm not much of a thespian though. My accents are pretty terrible.
You can just do your mushroom thing with them. That's your part.
All right. Graham could be in the movie.
Are you sure you're not on mushrooms tonight? That's my question.
Why do you say that?
You're pretty Cosby.
Well, isn't that the way to be?
Yeah.
No.
Sometimes you never come back after a trip if you're lucky.
If you're lucky, the longer they let you stay, the better. Yeah, I don't know. You guys need a Twitter account, that's for sure, so that we can retweet you. Help get you out there.
There is one for the Stones. My son's saying there's one for the Nomoli Stones.
Oh, nice. Okay, well, we'll put that in there. We'll put all the links to everything in the show notes as well.
Yeah, he got one started. He's up on that stuff.
Nice. That's good.
I'm a guy who chases people down who don't want to be filmed and put a camera out and ask questions they don't want to answer. It's my specialty. Other people post it all after we edit it. I know how to edit. Tell them what to edit. That's my specialty. But technologically, I'm an old guy.
Which episode of Ancient Aliens was it? Because it's season 13 now, is it?
14.
That was
Season 14?
144, season 14, episode 4.
Nice.
144.
All right.
Excellent. I'll have to check that out. I haven't seen it yet. Admittedly, I don't have cable or nothing, but I can probably figure out a way to watch that.
Well, on our site, ancientalienstones.com, we did put a little 2-minute cut from it that will explain to your viewers the tie into the Nomoli and the 17,000 years that shows the ball-bearing stone and connects them to the Dogon. So that's an interesting little piece that just to encapsulate the element of Nomoli in that episode.
Nice.
Have you talked to Laird Scranton at all?
I don't know that name.
We've had him on once or twice, and he was, if I remember correctly, he's got quite a big focus on the Dogon.
Yeah, I've been hanging out here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, not really nearly as connected as you guys and other people out there into what other people are doing.
You know what? I don't know where he is, but I want to say he's not far from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, we'll send you. I'll send you a link to his. We'll send you his contact info and stuff. Maybe he's a really interesting researcher. The best guy ever too. Super nice guy.
Don't say anything about Trump. Oh. I might change his tune.
Oh really?
Oh yeah.
I don't know these things.
Yeah. Trump really changed everything. He just fucked up everything when it comes to like relationships. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Be cosmic, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm a libertarian, so I'm above all that.
There you go.
There you
exactly.
go. I was a libertarian.
Well, we just talked to McAfee recently. He's a big libertarian. He still wants to run under that banner. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe you can don't vote for him. He doesn't want people voting for him though. So he just wants to.
Well, libertarians mostly don't vote anyway.
Exactly.
That's right.
Hey, why did the libertarian cross the road?
Because he fucking wanted to.
That's it. Am I being detained?
That's awesome.
Perfect. Right on, Ben. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast. We wish you the best of luck. Shoot me an email if you want to eat mushrooms with one of your little buddies. I have no problem doing that. We can record it and we'll release it, and we'll see what happens.
You'll charge it with an extra dose of mushrooms and send it back.
I'll send it back extra cosmic.
We'll do that.
All right.
Right on, Ben.
Thank you for the opportunity. That's a great opportunity.
Right on.
Thanks for coming on
Ben.
the show,
Yeah.
and we wish you and your son the best of luck.
Many blessings.
Okay. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks for telling the world about Nomoli.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Thank you.
Peace.
Peace. And that was our chat with Ben Vonderheide. What'd you think, buddy?
Yeah, it was fun.
That was
Interesting.
fun.
Yeah, well, I do want to get a little guy in the studio here.
It got a little crazy for me in the beginning. If anyone's wondering why I looked like I was having trouble paying attention for the first 5 minutes, it's because OBS crashed and the live stream went down.
Wow.
The sound wasn't working.
What's going on these days with everything?
I don't know. It's ever since you took the computer home, so I'm blaming you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
You got all porned up.
Actually, that would be a big screen. Way bigger than my laptop.
I should, I don't know. It's just not keeping up. We got a quote from George to get a custom built streamer.
Oh, really, eh?
$900.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
I know.
Can't do it.
Can't do
wait.
it.
Next year, maybe.
Maybe next year.
Can we trade in our other laptop for that? I guess we can't really, eh? Can we sell some stuff on Kijiji?
We're gonna start selling stuff on Kijiji. How about you guys support the fucking show so we don't have to have a garage sale? America.ca/support. Huge thanks to Ben for coming on the show. Huge thanks to his son. I missed his name, but for all the help with the technical side of things. And yeah, maybe we'll get one of those little dudes in here so you guys can get an up close look at it. We'll put some pictures and some video out, and then maybe we'll record a podcast with them on some mild hallucinogens. We'll see.
Yeah, touch it. Feel it.
Going like that.
Touch it and feel it. Let meditate with it on mushrooms. Do a whole spiritual thing with it. See what happens.
We could smudge it.
You could beforehand, I guess.
Maybe after.
Yeah, you might have to. After, yeah.
Anyway, come back anytime, Ben. Wish you the best of luck. Check out Ben's website. Maybe, I know we got a couple out of you there that might, we might get one person out of the Grimerica audience that buys a stone. How often can you buy a piece of history? Grab yours today. Check out Ben's stuff while you're on the internet.
You think LiDAR could pick those up?
No.
In the water? Under the water? Oh, LiDAR doesn't do under the water, does it?
And it doesn't do under the water.
We need a
sonar, baby.
Yeah, something over the water.
I don't know. Support the show. Grimerica.ca/support. Really does help while you're on the internet buying stones. You head over to the support page. Pledge a couple bucks a month on the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Stripe. And we truly appreciate it. We love you for it. Does really up your karma a little bit, makes us feel good, makes you feel good, makes the podcast a little better because everyone's feeling good. Doesn't get much better than that. Speaking of feeling good, we send you guys a bunch of good vibes so that you have a good weekend because we love you. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. And we're clear.
Right on. So say bye to the live people.
Bye, live people. Thanks for coming out.
Are we doing our intro after? Live? No?
Nah, I don't think so.
If we had a second interview, maybe. But
yeah.
we're
This is all we got tonight, folks. But we appreciate you for tuning in. Grimerica.ca/support. Tell your friends about the show. We got a live stream on Monday, remember? Extra one.